Alright, I'm going to make this video here and hopefully go over some of the issues I'm finding about these caps that you insert in the lids of buckets. If you're a beekeeper, fill that bucket up with syrup, snap that lid on, flip it over, and then hope it does not leak. And hope is usually the prevailing thing with these bucket feeders. I'm going to show you the problem here that I'm having. They pop this hole in here. When you order these caps online, there's a hole right here, and that hole is to serve that when you put the cap into the lid and you invert it over, you don't want leaving it there for 2 weeks or so. You don't want this amount of feed to sit in that bucket, which is what will happen unless you have that hole come through right on the bottom here. So if you puncture a hole, all of that feed will come out that small hole, and you'll end up emptying your bucket into your hive, or the bees will end up sucking it out, whichever is first. But the problem here is, if you look, you're not going to find that hole along the rim of that cap, and so that hole is actually sitting. It's actually sitting up in here in the lid. And when you put these in and you're thinking, oh great, this is going to work, I can't wait to feed my bees, and you flip it over and then you look down on the bottom, the thing is leaking. It's leaking slowly out of the crack here. It's not coming out of the screen, and it's leaking through the circumference of this cap. And it's frustrating, and the company that makes these and pops that hole, I think they're popping that hole in there for a bucket lid, I'm sorry, that happens to be a lot thinner than the ones that I've ordered here. And they do make buckets that are real thin, I guess, in their caps, and that might work for you. Or the person popping that hole in there needs to be popping that hole down or drilling that hole right in here into this cap. But I'm not working with that. I'm going to skip out all this, because I just find that these feeders, they try to optimize the number of parts to them, and this is just a part that we need to get rid of. So you can do this yourself. I went ahead and bought some screen on Amazon, number 40 screen. I went ahead and cut it. I think you can buy a 2x2 foot roll of this screen, stainless steel, and cut it out. And what we're going to do is we're going to trim the excess material here. We're going to put that screen right on the lid, and then I'm going to show you how to melt it inside that lid. And I found that when it's impregnated into the lid, when you flip these puppies over, I have not seen, I've shook them, and I have not seen liquid come out unless you shake, and then it'll jet out. But when it sits on there, to me it seems like it's a better work, a better fix, and it's one less part of these things that you don't need to, or you can get rid of. So let's work on that right now. So I went ahead and cut the screen to the size of the cap here. I just used some metal shears. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure you get something that'll absorb the heat. Go ahead and put your lid on there. Now this thing likes to blow away. I'm using a heat gun, and try to center on there as best I can. Now one thing I'm noticing is that I tried some of these where I cut the screen a lot larger than the actual hole. I recommend just sticking with the actual cap size. The larger the screen, the more that you have to melt in there. This keeps it from blowing away. And now we're going to go ahead and use the heat gun. And I've got this it's a metal, it's a hole cutter for wood. And I'm going to just heat up this lid. And once I impregnate the screen into the lid there, I can remove that wooden dowel. Takes a bit. You don't want to blow in too hard or it'll blow off. And you'll know when it's getting ready to take the screen, it starts getting shiny, the plastic that is. And it'll actually start to kind of warp. The object is don't let this heat gun sit too long in one area. It does melt it kind of quick. Alright. And you can see it just kind of tacks it down in there. I like to get one area started first. Get it to really come through on that screen. Once that happens, we can usually heat up the perimeter like this. And then go ahead and sit on it. And you know, some people might think that that's good enough, but me, I like to go ahead and really make sure that I get that screen to come through on the plastic. I like to see that white come all the way through. Make sure I get it in there. That's real good. Really get it in there. Alright, and then we'll just wait for a minute. Usually the plastic kind of adheres to the wood. When it cools off, it will give way. And I'll snap the lid off here. Let's give it a little time. Usually if you blow on it. There you go, it'll break free. You can see underneath it's really nice. And I've got that plastic to come through all the way on that screen. I'm going to go ahead and run it under some water, and that pretty much does it. Show you how much comes out of here when I invert it. Okay. And it'll continue to drip just a little, and then it'll stop. And just to let you know, if I shake it like this, that'll make that sugar come out. But it seems to be, I would not do that shaking with the cap, or that cap will pop right out. So we go ahead here and come on over. One thing else I did is I noticed that some of these feeders, I think the bees rush up to them, and they may cause it to leak also that way. So I just made this little gasket or this manifold, and right on top of there, and hopefully that'll keep them happy. That's it.